All right, we're doing it now. How's that looking? Is that cool? Let's do the back. Is that good? Okay, and now I'm tired. Hey friends, I'm J Fram, aka Justin LaFram Boys. Call me J Fram. It's easier. You may know me on Instagram, JFramJams. If not, the link's below. Hey to friends, by the way. I've been posting clips for the last year from my church playing guitar, and today I'm gonna do a pedalboard rundown. First time, and I'm very excited. I've actually already filmed it, cut out lots of fluff, and I just wanted to say hey before we jump in. I'm keeping production really simple for this one. One camera, we're gonna switch to a down camera here in a minute. For this rundown, we're gonna use the trusted Rivolta Combinata. I've had this guitar for about a year and a half. So we've got the stock P90s. A little noisy at times, but please forgive me. It is what it is. P90s. Pretty straightforward. Just run through it, hear some sounds, but not like a super deep dive on anything specific. If you want something specific, just hit me up. And I would love to maybe, make shorter videos that are specific to one thing, like just the H90 or whatever, just Morningstar, just Overdrives, whatever it is. So I think that's it, y'all. Let's make some noise. All right, here we are. Let's go ahead and talk through signal flow and how it's all patched together. There's a JHS buffer underneath. See the guitar cable goes in that. That's mounted underneath. So that's number one. And then that goes into the Emerald preamp, which I leave always on, which we'll see here in a minute. And then that goes to the case study compressor underneath the board. And then next we go to the diamond compressor. I do keep the diamond in front of all these drives. And then it's it's pretty straightforward from there. We go into Aspen, which is my dirtiest overdrive at the moment. And then we go into the Snouse. These two pedals here are Sound of Justice effects. Jeremiah, I love you and your products. And then we go into my beloved Tony overdrive. This is a custom. This circuit is a Timmy circuit, Timmy V2, and this is sort of like the left side of a King of Tone. That's how I think about it. Then we go into the, I think it's pronounced Layla, that's how I say it. Layla volume pedal. This is the Mono Volume S. S for, I guess, short or small. The longer one is the length of a foot. I love this volume pedal. This is like the end all be all for me. Lost the grip tape. Somebody was asking me about that in a Q&A. It looks very it has like a military vibe, and it looks like it's tough, Next up is the Brig. This is where we end the mono and we flip to stereo. So we have mono in, stereo out with the fancy TRS splitter cable. That travels all the way up to the DD500, and we go with these right angle plugs that have to go with the Boss, as you guys know. So now we're in stereo all the way through at the top, and we go to H90. H90 goes to the Collider, and Collider comes underneath this riser and goes up to Tonex, and the Tonex goes to a Walrus Audio DI line oscillator underneath. So that is the first version. They've now come out with the second version recently, which does look pretty nice. Here is a broken Old Blood Noise expression slider. You're not supposed to use your foot, and you can probably see this is like toast. So I unplugged this. This used to control the delay mix of the Collider, and it allowed me to the idea was I could slide up the delay mix as needed, and I had it where the delay was just always on. And I would just, whenever I wanted, I'm like, hey, I want some last minute, extra delay. And I would do that. And then during a camp week recently, I broke it. So it's just kind of there as a dummy, just to fill in the void. And then I guess I haven't mentioned the obvious Polytune, whatever, doesn't need much discussion. This is coming out of the tuner out of the Layla, so it's always on, always rocking. These have a great input buffer too. If you ever just put it at the front of the chain, and you can utilize the buffer, which is nice. So now I guess I should mention that Tonex currently is loaded with the Tone Shepherd's tone cap with the greenback speaker, by the way. I think it's Tone Shepherd's. I think he uses his like AC30 cab that has greenbacks. So there's that, and then this is a Chimera with the VSOP, or I want to say VSOP. I have an urge to say VSOP. Yes, you can laugh at me. It's okay. So yeah, let's grab this guitar. Again, we're using my trusted Rivolta Combinata P90s, stock P90s, bro. I'm going to stay middle pickup for a little bit. I'm going to leave the tone wide open, volume all the way up. The first thing we're going to jump into is just the Tonex captures, what those are coming through like. The compressor underneath the board is off. The preamp is off. You can see that the preamp is off. So this is just the Tonex, and this is what that sounds like. I guess we'll do all pickups with this. Let's do neck pickup for this. Okay, bridge. So it does break up, right? If I play super soft, again, no compression preamp yet. If I play very, very soft. Right? It can get super clean. We dig in. Tiny bit of breakup. Neck pickup is, that's kind of a tangent on this guitar. Don't really use it a lot, but this is what that sounded like. Still some breakup, right? So I'm gonna pop down, turn the compressor on. I'll probably chop that part out of the video because it's kind of a pain in the butt to get to. And then we'll rock the preamp, and then you'll kind of start to get a feel for my bass tone, right? All right, the compressor is on. Middle pickup, this is what that sounds like. Neck pickup. Bridge. Okay, so check this out. Let's go back to middle pickup. And this is still no preamp. If I play soft, like I did earlier, the case study does a great job of keeping that up, right? It's not like I can't be soft. It just does a good job of keeping it kind of alive instead of like disappearing, right? With the raw compressedless signal. So here's that. I love how it keeps that up. Now, if I dig in, yes, it's compressed. The case study does not have a dry blend, but it's a very, very dynamic compressor. For me, I like that there's 100% compression in the sense that, like, because Tonex is a digital platform and receives input digitally, and there's like a lot of debate about the signal and, like, you know, input trim and you know, clipping or whatever. For me, I'm like, it comforts me, you know? And that reminds me, I forgot to mention earlier that all of my Tonex anything is always at 0 input trim. I don't want to bog down on that for too long. If you want to ask me questions about that, you send me a message on Instagram. People already do that, and I love talking about that. Next thing would be the preamp. Okay, what are we doing with the preamp? For me, it's not about adding, you know, a bunch of output. It's more so for the color. It's really all about the color. And as we're hearing the signal right now, I don't have an issue with it per se, but at the end of the day, Tonex is a digital platform. It sounds incredible, but it's still digital. And it's like, my theory is like, let's help it out the best we can, right? The compressor is the first step to that because it's an analog circuit, you know. and it's always on, and it's like already helping to inject this sort of analogism. With the preamp, it's like it's not necessary, but I like having it there because it sort of rounds off the edges, so to speak, of the bass tone. It's going to round off some of the top end that can feel like plasticky, and then it kind of injects some low mids, which, you know, is pretty welcome for me. So yeah, we're going to hit this on, kind of turn it on and off, and you'll see what's going on. It's just kind of thickening things up, right? So without, with, let's play out a little bit more without, with, without, with, let's do the bridge pickup. There's that noise. Without, with, I mean, this is like splitting hairs to a degree, but it's you know, it makes me feel better. Every time I turn the board on, this is where we are. And as I kind of fumble through getting that set up, now I feel comfortable. This is, I mean, I could play just here, warm up, you know. Neck pickup. Bridge pickup. Middle's always my, you know, always my starting point. All right, while we're here, now that we've got bass tone, we got to jump into overdrives. We'll go like lightest to heaviest, and then, you know, I'll show you the stacking options. I might go a little fast at first because I want to get to like effects and then just start kind of playing around a little bit. So here's bass tone again. And here is King of Tone. Love it. Adds a lot of low end, which is really useful for the boosting side of things. It's dynamic. I can play it soft. I do this a lot. And I mean, you know, it's gnarly, but in the mix and with the effects, it's not as gnarly as you'd think. And sometimes it actually helps boost into effects, like if we're really driving and I got like something like this going on and it's really loud and gnarly, when I come down, sometimes I'll keep that on, because if I take it all off, it's almost like the guitar gets swallowed up by effects. So it's like a utility as much as it is a tone shaper. And if I'm at home, man, I'm just like playing, I'm always going here first. This is just kind of like where my heart is. Obviously, it's not very dirty, but it's not really supposed to be. Next is Timmy, right? Look, take a note of something here. The gain is almost the same, and you hear how gnarly the Timmy is. And it's also not even turned up all the way. Timmy's freaking loud, man. Oh, I should have said this earlier. Voodoo Labs, the power supply has two slots where I can do 12 volt. And I have the 12 volt on for these two pedals. So keep that in mind. I know some people care about that. Everything else is 9 volt. So these do have a little bit more headroom. And I mean, it's one of those things where like I left it at 12 and I haven't turned back, right? So back to Timmy. That's like probably, I mean, that's probably my favorite circuit of all time. It can get really gainy too. So if I had to settle with just this for whatever reason, like if I ever build like a travel board, a smaller board, I'm happy with putting just this as my only overdrive. And I would probably hit the Timmy harder gain wise. And maybe the King of Tone as well. I probably could do like a Tony and like a clean boost, like a Katana or something. So let's go up to the Snouse. It's the chords spot. That's kind of how my brain, that's just how I process it. Like I need big chords. It's going to be this spot right here. I can get big chords out of this combo as well. But there's something, man, you can hear there's something. That's gnarly, bro. And when you stack that. So it's so funny coming up with little tiny licks. That's making me laugh. Yeah, like that's gnarly. You know, this pedal gets so loud. I do have the gain kind of pushed higher. You know, the Aspen and the Snouse are kind of pushed a little bit more. These are obviously pulled back. But just look, just there. Like if let's kind of cycle through without stopping, right? Let's do this. Let's do this. See that? Or hear that, rather? Yeah, I mean, we haven't even turned the Aspen on yet, and things can get pretty wild. You know what I'm saying? So that's cool, man. And then, you know, the Aspen is like, I feel like a lot of you, the people who would be watching this right now, like you've had an Aspen or you tried one. We know what this does, right? This is like your gnarly. It's funny that I'm playing chords because I don't actually use it for chords. I'm all in. Right, and let's compare that to. So, okay, we acclimated with drives, right? I don't know if that's heavy for some. I feel like some people, I feel like I'm kind of in the middle. I think some people would have like a fuzz instead of the Aspen. I mean, I know the Aspen can be a fuzz, but what I really mean is like they would just go straight from snouts to fuzz and get even heavier. Maybe that's too heavy for some. I don't know. But I just like that I have all the options. I mean, you could argue this is too many, but they have jobs, and I justify it. You know, boost or sort of like pushed amp, you know, low gain, low medium-ish, big chords, lead lines, right? And then, of course, if I got to boost it, I got to boost it. I think that's good to get familiar with those for now. Let's move on to, let's start moving into effects. And then we'll turn the overdrives on and off as we go. I think the next thing that would be helpful is to turn the vibrato on, right? Let's listen to that, and then after that, I'm going to skip ahead just a hair and show you something on the H90, because I want to show you sort of like the other vibrato that I would use outside of the diamond, and it's on the H90. So let's start with the diamond. Let's go ahead and turn this on. Let's turn it off, and you'll hear the signal brighten back up. Isn't that crazy? It's like, it definitely gets darker, warmer. Again, just like the drives, those are my settings. I don't ever mess with it. That's what works for me. Let's hear some bridge pickup. Cool, huh? All right, I'm going to skip ahead. I'm going to go in the Morningstar, and I'm going to go ahead and go to a patch on the H90 that has the sticky tape algorithm. So this is actually a combination patch. I'll show you later what that's more about. But if I just engage just this A slot, I have sticky tape on. This is my other like vibrato-esque sound that I will use sometimes instead of the diamond. Sticky tape is going for more of like that generation loss or like retro reel kind of thing, where it's the cassette warble. It's more like unpredictable and very nostalgic. But that sounds like this. Trying to let a lot of this early stuff sustain. Just, I know I'm playing boring stuff, but just kind of sustain so you can hear what's going on. Let's go back to the diamond. Back to the sticky tape. What's cool about the sticky tape is there's a compression to it. I'm pretty sure you can actually, like, you can dig into the compression in the parameters. So that's cool. That is sort of what that one's about. If I want to play like a lot of intros, clean intros with ambience, I'll use that to get even more compression. The diamond is all about EQ, and it's all about like helping to get rid of that, you know, this whole thing. And yes, I want you to hear the noise. If I hit the diamond, isn't that awesome? So, you know, and I don't want you to think, oh, you're just using a whole freaking effect to like kill noise. Why don't you just get noiseless P90s? Well, it's not. I mean, I can deal with the noise. It's just I hit the diamond because I love vibrato, and it's a bonus that I have this, you know, I can kill that. I mean, that's so freaking cool. So yeah, we'll come back to H90 in a minute. That's, to me, the diamond obviously is like an extension of the bass tone and the overdriven tone. So, I mean, everything we've touched on so far, pre-effects, I mean, we're going to We're going to dance around all that kind of stuff in conjunction with all the effects. And now, let's get to some effects, right? Let's talk about the Morningstar first. I think we need to talk about how I control the effects before we actually hear the effects. And I appreciate you guys. If you made it this far, first of all, thank you. And I appreciate you letting me talk through the logistics of this stuff because it's important. I didn't mention this at the top of the video, but I don't have the looper extension for the Morningstar. I don't want MIDI or like looping or having the option to like swap overdrives. I don't want that to bring me down. Like, and I know myself, that kind of stuff will bring me down. So it's just more so to like keep things as simple as I can. On any given, like Sunday or set, I have a song page. You see these titles. This is actually today. I used it this morning. So I've got a song here, and then I've got this is flow. I do this a lot where like my team will play like 4 or 5 songs on the same tempo. So I'll just hit flow and lock in a tempo, and then I can come up to my pedal pages, and then I can just pick sounds. Okay. And look, this is what's hilarious. I have 1, 2, 3 pages. That's it. And then a song page, and then nothing. Let's do the Brig first. Let's just hear like this sort of default quarter note analog delay and how that, we're clocked at 74 beats per minute, by the way, which you can see up there. And let's just hear how this is coming through. So that trails off for a while. Before we move on, let's do multi real quick and just get familiar with that. What's cool about the multi-mode is like, even though I'm at 74 beats per minute, I don't have to play to that per se. Like multi is where I can just play a little bit more freely. Like if we turn, if we're flowing and we turn our click off or whatever, that's really cool. It also creates like that diffusion that's nice for more of a wash. Let's go to the DD page and just kind of touching base. We have 6 algorithms. We have our digital eighth, our digital dotted eighth, a reverse, a slap, and then we have 2 dual algorithms. We have the eighth dotted eighth and then the quarter dotted eighth. Let's go through all of these, stay at 74 beats per minute. We'll start with the digital eighth, which to me is like rock chords. It can be used for 6/8. It can be used for just, standard type song. It takes overdrive, it takes, ambience, but just think of this as like almost like a extension of my clean tone. Here's the dotted eighth. I have the mix higher on that one because usually, if I'm going to go for dotted eighth, it's because, it's going to support some kind of groove. You know what I'm saying? It's going to have... Whereas the straight eighth is, more so, again, it's just that extension of the bass tone. have reverse. This is, you know, it's reverse, right? My thing with this one is like, I have it set to where even though it's clocked, it feels sort of like out of time in a way, because to me reverse works well when it's just sort of like full of surprises. You know, there's that. Here's the slap. The slap is actually a dual delay, as you see, but it's just like each side is really short. The subdivision is really, really short. So you get this like, you know, like old school kind of sound. This is great for this kind of vibe, like if I'm and then you can get more of a clear sort of echo with the Brig into that. But yeah, that's a great just rock machine delay. Got a lot of width to it. That's really good. If we're really pushing like a rock vibe, we're driving, I'll probably hit slap, because at that point it's less about like discernible echoes and more about width and, you know, like excitement. So, all right, here's eighth, dotted eighth. This is, I would say, next to digital eighth, this is my most used DD500 algorithm. So I'll take a minute with this one. I mean, you know, the dual delay concept, there's so much happening with just that, you know, and when you hit it with overdrive, it has a reverb type feel. So that one gets used a lot. You know, I would say like coming to quarter eighth note is more about down tempo. You know, 74 might be, I would use this more if I'm in the 60s, but it, you know, it's just a slightly more dramatic. It's just kind of more obvious, you know, the feedback is longer. These two are essentially the same job. It's just a matter of like what tempo are we at. Let's go to H90 now. Let's kind of talk about these reverbs. Let's take the DD500 off. And let's go, I guess, from smallest to largest as far as reverb. And then we'll get to these delay combo sounds, these two right here. And those are really fun. Anyway, we're already on SP Verb, which is like a room type. Shorter, you know, old school kind of a sound. I had a CXM the Chase Bliss CXM for a while, and I remember the room reverb on there was like incredible. This SP Verb reminds me of the room verb of the CXM. So there's that, and then underneath there, if we're just using kind of just following the page here, under there is an all wet verb. This is pretty obvious, like this is just going to be. That's that kind of thing. I guess I jumped ahead of here. We really should go to this black hole, shorter black hole. This is technically a notch up from the SP Verb. And then again, we have this A slot if we want the low octave. And you know, this is the only reverb algorithm where I have that ability, but I don't ever want a low octave, you know, mod when I have like a giant reverb. I'm gonna go for vibrato or the Brig or whatever. But at this type of reverb size, I often will want that, and that's where the H90 shines with the dual algorithm, and I can just pull that up, and I have, you know, I'm ready to go with this sort of like. And, you know, if we hold this down, utilizing, you know, Morningstar's tricks, I can do low and high octave. And when I'm done with that, I can just tap it and it goes back to the same verb, but no octave stuff. And so it's really a combination of like, just the verb, right? And then I can have my low octave, which I have to physically hit the A slot, or I just hold this down for technically a different patch. But it's the same verb, it just has a high low octave. So that's helpful. The next size up reverb wise is going to be a larger black hole, which has the sticky tape that we talked about earlier. And so this one sounds like this. And let's compare. Okay, and then my mood patch is also just a black hole. If we take the glittery stuff off, it's just a sort of a third stage of this type of reverb. It's like noticeably more dramatic, right? But they're the same sound, and I love the black hole. Like that's, you know, you could say it's like the cloud, you know, like the big sky cloud. These three are my heavy hitters, and they all have their own mods or additives that work best with their size. So the mood works best with this size, this type of modulation. This is my heart right here, y'all. And again, I mean, that's just the H90. Everything else is off. I'm trying to really just showcase each pedal the best I can. The last two here are going to be our combo sounds. And this is where things can get pretty fun. So the first one is going to be a dual tape delay, right, into a hall. The tape delay, the dual delay by itself is this. Isn't that crazy? And then the hall, just the hall side of it, kind of like the SP. It's short, it's nothing, it's not dramatic. You know, I mean, maybe for some people that's dramatic, but for what I do, the way I play, that's on the lighter side. And that verb is the same as this algorithm. This is a different delay. This is a vintage digital. Sounds like this. Just like a ping, right? Quarter note, eighth note. But the verb side is the same as the tape. Like if I go back to this and turn the delay off, those verbs are the same. The trick with these two is that I have different flavors of delay verb from the jump, right? So there's that flavor, more exotic type of subdivisions, and then this is more kind of traditional. Okay, and the trick here, this is where things get fun. Since this tape combo is more of a dotted eighth kind of vibe, it's like a 16th and dotted eighth, I think, or something like that, but it works well with the DD500 when the DD500 is on eighth, right? So if I hold this down, no matter where the DD500 is, like if let me say I'm on reverse, right? And I want to stack these two specific sounds, I can hold this down and I get the digital eighth feeding into this, and then I get this beautiful stack right here. And look, same concept with the vintage digital. The subdivisions are different, so they work better with the dotted eighth as far as the DD500. So same thing. If I hold this down, now I've got that stack, and it doesn't matter where I am, you know, on the boss. I just hold that down. It sends the program change or whatever. So and that sounds like this. Matter of fact, let's just hold the other one. Let's go back. You know, different flavors of stacking, and both relevant depending on the song. Like if I play, let me think. This is the one case where I'll probably change the tempo for a second. If I'm playing I Thank God, I'm going to have this combo right here. Right? Or I could use that for praise too if I needed to. So, you know, it comes down to song choice. With this in mind, you know, at any point, let's go a little slower actually. I have this tap here on my song page, so at any point I can just manually tap in. I'm glad you got to see that. So now we have this. Let's stack the Brig on top of that. And let's go to multi on the Brig. just like echo chaos, you know, but in a good way. Let's do some vibrato. Right. So, I mean, that peers into how that works, and then you can already see how, like, at any point I could have, you know, dotted eighth into the black hole, and I can hold this down for my sticky tape. And then I could add my Brig. We can add this. You know, and that's as needed. I'm just kind of showing you ways that they all can work together at any point. And it's just nice to have that decision, you know, right there. But, you know, I'm saving the collider for last, mostly because it's like the end of the chain. It's the last thing before the Tonex. But really, I want to show it to you and then sort of kind of go back and start stacking things, and just, I'll probably end all of this with just random sounds. Maybe I'll just call that chapter, like, you know, combinations or just sound examples. And I'll just, without rhyme or reason, just change things and show you what I would legit play. But the collider, you know, again, it's like so many people are like, why the collider? It really, you know, it comes down to like function. You know, yes, it sounds great. I think it's sorely underrated, but it's also, it's smaller. You know, it fits in there good, takes MIDI perfectly. It responds well to, you know, this sort of like bank changing. And all I need is the 4 sounds that I go through. I actually only really need the 2. Sounds 3 and 4 are more for like experimenting. I pretty much mostly use 1, and it's the E-dome reverb, which you can think of as like a big cloud reverb, you know, or like something like the Mercury X, like Gravity or whatever. We'll just show you that first all by itself. Okay, it sounds like this. It's beautiful, man. I really hope that speaks for itself. It's very like icy. It's very clean in the sense that it's not going to take up a lot of headroom, and by the time I like have all this other stuff on, it just kind of like cuts through in the perfect way without being this big dramatic thing. And I don't need it to be. Again, it's a sort of auxiliary or extra or topper or whatever kind of word you would want to use for the main stuff kind of over here, right? And then, you know, the other main verb I would use is the shimmer, which is, it's so funny because shimmer gets so much hate, but the shimmer of this verb, of this pedal, is breathtaking. And I don't have this isn't super dramatic compared to the E-dome, but you know, the idea with this one is that it's gonna help add to like something like the black hole. Let's turn it off. See, because like the black hole is carrying a lot of weight, and especially if you have, I mean, realistically, I would have the, you know, the DD500 always on. So this would be a very common scenario. But then you add the shimmer, you just get that little bit more. You know, and if we need the E dome, it's just we just go down one and do the same thing. Without. It's just giving me more, and it works for me. And I mean, I can, you know. I can hit it hard, and it's good. And another thing it does, which is great, is like you can swell into it or whatever and just hold it. And, you know, I've got my volume on my guitar off. And if I just hold that, I got a pad. And I can't tell you how many times that's all I need. You know, if maybe there's a break in the set, there's some, you know, we're talking or, you know, whatever. You know, somebody's just got to talk, prayer, whatever. This is great, you know. And you can play with it a little bit. I mean, you can kind of back off and pick a different chord and, you know. So yeah, there's that. I mean, the delay side is great too. If I had to get extra out of it, it's going to be kind of like the vintage digital on the H90, the sort of Pong kind of. I guess we should turn that off to really hear it. It's not much. It's just extra. If I needed it, I can step on it and I get that. But you know, to be honest, it's not really getting used a whole lot. It kind of makes me think this could be a Ventris, a source audio Ventris, and just kind of be a pretty jacked, you know, sort of final ambient verb. But yeah, the idea is like with the Brig being in front of these two and the Collider being behind these two, these are my sort of extra. And I guess, you know, we would need to turn on all this stuff. Let's pick the most dramatic combination. We got Brig. You know what? Let's start with the Brig off. Let's do the dual into the mood, which is very common, and then I'll put on the E-dome and then the Brig, and you can see, you know, you can see what I'm going for sometimes. And this I definitely do this all the time. Yeah, man. I mean, that's dramatic, but sometimes it's necessary. And, you know, when it's all by itself, it sounds so dramatic. But when you have a whole band and you're going, that can really help to fill a big spot. And a lot of times on my team, my weekly team, I'm the only electric player. So I can fill a big spot with that. That's probably where some of my workflows come from. It's like I have been in enough situations where I'm like, man, I just need a little more. I need a little more. So then it's like, okay, I put this on there, and it gets me a little bit more. And then I get the Brig. I'm like, okay, that really gets me a little bit more as well. And then, you know, it doesn't always have to be all hands on deck. It's a combination of things, you know. So I guess we can just kind of end it with let's do like little just overdrive cycle, just kind of cycle through some stuff like crazy. And this will be kind of maddening, but just to hear at least kind of how the drives are pushing into the stuff, because I know I kind of went on a sort of like chronological journey and didn't super stack everything. So let's just kind of jump in, and you'll see me move around like crazy and get a sense for how it all works together.